Now, we talked a little bit about LeBron just from the rumor standpoint. How about projecting to the offseason here and looking at the best possible teammate for LeBron James, Harris? So what we're going to do is we're first going to flash you guys a little.
We're not flashing you guys.
No, we are not flashing you guys.
That's not happening.
We are going to show you guys the criteria for the prototypical or best case scenario LeBron James sidekick. We're going to go sidekick because LeBron is the king, of course.
He's the sidekick. Yeah.
So let's take a look here at some of the points. And number one, ability to catch and shoot, Harris. Not ball dominant, durable and reliable, star player with a few years left. And then obviously being able to create your own shot too.
Yeah, and it's funny because you can take a lot of LeBron's teammates from, just the past couple years, and none of them have ever really hit all 5 of these. I mean, Kyrie Irving was a great teammate for him.
Was he the closest?
He was ball dominant, and he wasn't durable and reliable. So he had 3 of the 5. I mean, Dwayne Wade had about 4 of the 5 because his abilities to catch and shoot were a little bit iffy. And, obviously you had Chris Bosh, but Chris Bosh didn't have the ability to make his own shot off the dribble that often. I mean, Ray Allen was a fantastic guy because he wasn't ball dominant. He had all those guys. But for me, there are a lot of players, but you got to start with a shooter. There are not a lot of perfect LeBron teammates, but they're out there.
All right, so that's the criteria, folks. We're going to count you down from number 5 to number 1 in terms of the best possible LeBron James sidekicks. We'll give you guys our reasoning for each one. We'll start off with number 5, Harris, and I know you're not a fan of this one, but it sounds like he's going to be testing the open market at some point. It's Paul George of OKC.
See, Paul George is a great player, and for whatever reason, LeBron throughout, honestly, the last half of his career has tried to get Paul George onto his team. They've made he's asked the Cavs to make multiple trade offers for Paul George over the past couple of years, and I don't really see it. He doesn't hit a lot of the criteria. He's a good catch and shooter, not a great one, but he's a good one.
Good defender.
He does have years ahead of him in terms of star players. He is durable and reliable. He can make his own shot off the dribble. But for me, it's just he does all those things, but not insanely well. And the idea that Paul George is a great defender has started to wither a little bit. A lot of his defending abilities has to do with the players that are around him. For instance, when Andre Roberson was playing with the Thunder, who's the shooting guard that went down with an injury, he was great. He was maybe the defensive player of the year, talking about Paul George. Once Andre Roberson left, Paul George all of a sudden went from one of the best defenders in the NBA to average to below average. So that kind of tells me, all right, well, let's go back and see his Indiana numbers. Same thing happened in Indiana. When he had Roy Hibbert and Lance Stevenson, when they were at the top of their games, he was one of the best defenders in basketball. Once those guys started to get injured a little bit more and started missing games, you steadily saw his defensive ratings and his kind of defensive advanced statistics start to drop a little bit. Now, he's always going to be one of the top steals guys in the NBA. That's just his game. He's very aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. But the amount of chances that he takes ends up hurting his defense over time.
What about the relationship between LeBron and Paul George from the Pacers?
That's where it helps. They have really good chemistry because they play a lot of pickup games. So a lot of people wonder, why do these players want to play together? When do they have the time? So you have a guy named Chris Brinkley who he's a USA Today basketball correspondent, also a big-time basketball trainer. He hosts these pickup games all the time. It's how James Harden and Chris Paul learned that they wanted to play together. They played in these pickup games and saw that they have good chemistry. LeBron and Paul George, same kind of concept. They always play together in these pickup games behind the scenes. That's how Melo and a lot of these guys also started getting along. This is different from the Olympics teams, which is how the big 3 in Miami of Dwayne Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh got together. That's completely different. But the modern-day NBA game and the modern-day way that stars are starting to play together is just based off of these pickup games where they're playing together in kind of a professional gym, but it's just for fun. It's actually one of the reasons that Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Draymond Green got together, but they also got close because of the Olympics.
It seems quite clear that Paul George is not going to be with OKC very soon.
I think he's going to the Lakers. I said it yesterday. He's probably a shoo-in for the Lakers at this point.
All right, so there's Paul George. He's at number 5 for best possible LeBron James sidekicks. Let's go to number 4 here, a young player that perhaps could grow with LeBron and eventually surpass LeBron. Devin Booker, great shooter and scorer, young star, has expressed some displeasure with the Suns as well, Harris. So.
Well, I think Devin Booker is going to end up staying with the Suns because this is the year that they're finally apparently turning the page in order to start signing veterans, which they should have done 2 years ago. This, for me, would be a fantastic LeBron teammate. The only problem is I think he's a little bit young to play with LeBron, and since he's played on the Suns for so many years, I wonder what he would do if he's not the ball-dominant guy on the court, because that's his big thing. He's very similar in a lot of ways to Kyrie Irving, except he doesn't play point guard. Devin Booker obviously plays shooting guard, but this would be someone that LeBron would bring in to kind of carry on whatever team he had after it. Devin Booker, to me, is like a young Kobe. I mean, he takes a lot of shots, but he also makes a lot of them. His three-point game has improved as well since he's come to the NBA. He doesn't give you a lot in terms of passing or rebounding, which is something that I think LeBron kind of looks for in a number 2 or even a number 3. I just wonder, for Devin Booker, is the age there? Is the maturity there? And also, can he be effective without the ball in his hands a lot? That's kind of been his thing with the Suns, is that the entire team has been so bad, they just give it to Devin Booker and they're like, sure, go ahead, shoot 20-plus times a game and score as many points as you want and lose. So I think they would make good teammates, just not right now. I think you need to give Devin Booker a couple of years. Devin Booker would be a great player to give to LeBron when LeBron is 36 and 37 and can't put ahead the same amount of effort he does in the first half as he does in the second. It'd be great to have someone like Devin Booker who can take almost all of the scoring load off of LeBron from quarters to halves when LeBron needs it when he gets older.
All right, so there's Devin Booker there at number 4 on our list. As we get down the list here, obviously, the better fit they are. And checking in at number 3, which I think makes a lot of sense here, Harris, from a mentality standpoint, friendship standpoint, and just pure fit. Chris Paul, guard of the Rockets.
We have been robbed as NBA fans for never seeing Chris Paul and LeBron James on the same court at the same time. We haven't even seen it happen in an All-Star game because it's always been West versus East, and Chris Paul has always been in the Western Conference, or at least, since LeBron has been relevant. So we've been robbed. They would have been the perfect combo, and there's a reason that they're friends. Look, Chris Paul's game, he is a ball-dominant point guard. He is. That's always been Chris Paul's kind of MO. He needs to have the ball in his hands. But it's okay because he would find so many ways of getting LeBron involved in the offense. And he's such an amazing floor general that it wouldn't matter and it wouldn't affect LeBron's overall statistical output. If anything, I think Chris Paul would make LeBron a more efficient player, if that's even possible. It is a shame that we never got to see them on the same court. I always wanted to see the Super Friends, or the Banana Boat Crew as they're more commonly called. I would have loved to see LeBron, Melo, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Paul on the same team. Because if you break it down as a top 4 and you throw in a defensive center in there, that's an amazing basketball team. It would run through LeBron, a lot of driving kicks to D. Wade, a lot of driving kicks to Melo in the corner for threes. Chris Paul's running the show as the best floor general in the NBA. I would have loved to see Chris Paul and LeBron James on the floor at the same time. It is a damn shame that they never up being teammates.
Now, here's the only thing that I caution myself with about Chris Paul, Harris. The whole analogy that you never want to be roommates with your best friend.
That's fair.
Because eventually, things can go awry. Could things go sour with Paul and James?
Chris Paul is a very, very, how do I put this in a very kind way? He is a very strong personality and likes things his way. And when they aren't his way, he gets very frustrated. And that ended up being his problem with the Clippers, is that him, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre, their relationship devolved because Chris Paul wanted things a certain way, as did Doc Rivers, but Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan wouldn't really get on board with it. So I think Chris Paul and LeBron would get along, but you're right, it could clash if they started to lose games.
All right, hit us up in the reaction poll about Chris Paul and LeBron James. Be sure to hit us up in comments as well as the segment here rolls on with the best possible teammates for LeBron. Let's go to number 2. I've got Kawhi Leonard here, and first of all, the mystery that was Kawhi Leonard during the NBA playoffs was the weirdest thing in the world, Harris. I'm sure one of the weirder storylines that you have followed as an NBA analyst.
Yeah, for sure.
But Leonard, of course, great defender entering his prime. What do you think?
I wonder this. One thing about the Kawhi story, he came out yesterday and they asked him, why aren't you playing? He said, because I'm injured. Why else wouldn't I be playing? And that kind of pushed me over the edge for kind of going on Kawhi's side with this. Because he's right. He's a top 5 player in basketball, coming off the best season of his career where he was getting MVP votes. And then all of a sudden, he's just going to sit out a season because he's mad at Popovich.
Right.
I think he's legitimately injured and just doesn't feel comfortable coming back. And the Spurs just, for whatever reason, do not understand that. And now looking at him with LeBron James, look, Kawhi checks off a lot of boxes for what LeBron likes, but also he's a great defender, and one of the big things about him, he's not an alpha. He's not a guy who's going to come in and try to take the ball away from LeBron and cause problems in the locker room. He's going to do what he's told and play his game and play it well. He's also not ball dominant at all. Of course, he needs the ball to get his shots, and I think he could be a little bit better of an overall catch-and-shoot kind of guy. But look, every single year, Kawhi Leonard has gotten better. Every single year. And that's going to continue through that train until we get to his prime. So LeBron all of a sudden gets Kawhi Leonard. He gets a guy who's still improving, has a lot of years ahead of him, has a good jump shot that's getting better every single year, a guy who can shoot threes, a great defender on both sides of the ball, someone who grew up in a passing system, who's also a stellar rebounder. I would love to see LeBron and Kawhi Leonard on the court at the same time. I just wonder this one thing. Are their skills too repetitive for it to work? Is Kawhi Leonard a little bit too much like LeBron in a lot of areas for them to work together on the court
Kind of like a plus and a plus don't match.
Exactly. Kind of one of the reasons why I think Paul George and LeBron wouldn't work. Just Paul George and LeBron are similar players. Obviously, Paul George is nowhere near as good as LeBron, but they play very similar games in the way that they attack the basket, the way that they defend on the other end. LeBron's a way better passer than George, but they just score in very similar ways. And Kawhi's the same way. He's not a three-point shooter or a jump shooter. He gets his shots and he gets his overall scoring output by being an efficient offensive player, by getting to the hoop, by getting offensive rebounds, and being a smart player on the offensive side of the ball. Same thing with LeBron, but LeBron is obviously a little bit more overpowering. I just wonder if it's a little repetitive.
All right, so Kawhi Leonard checks in at number 2 on the list. Let's get to the number 1 best possible sidekick for LeBron James, Klay Thompson.
You literally couldn't list. All the 5 things that we talked about, Cam, is Klay Thompson's entire repertoire as a player. Not to mention he's one of the best perimeter defenders in all of basketball. He is the best catch-and-shoot guy in the entire NBA.
It's so smooth.
It's it. Number 1. He's the number 1 catch-and-shoot guy in the NBA. Number 2, his ability to make his own shot off the dribble has been one of the greatest progressions of any single player in the NBA the past 5 years that I have seen. Klay Thompson came into this league as a strict catch-and-shoot guy and has all of a sudden turned into one of the best shoot-off-the-dribble shooting guards in the NBA, bar none. Like, he went from 0 to 100 in about 3 years. It's been incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Not to mention, he has a lot of time ahead of him. He doesn't cause problems in the locker room. He's a very chill guy. He's not an alpha, and he also is going to love the open looks that LeBron James would give him. Can you imagine this offense? Lonzo Ball, Klay Thompson, LeBron James, Brandon Ingram, and then you throw in a small ball 5 in there as well. That's an incredible roster because now you have Klay Thompson next to LeBron. You have the perimeter defending that LeBron is kind of taking a step back on.
You may not win on the boards, though.
Well, you'll still win on the boards because you have LeBron and you also have Brandon Ingram, whose rebounding is going to get better. He's just so long. Eventually, it has to work out, but I would love to see Klay and LeBron play together. Klay Thompson is like if Dwayne Wade learned how to shoot threes. I'm serious. If Dwayne Wade learned a three-point shot, he would have ended up being Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson is going to end up retiring as one of the best shooting guards in NBA history. He is incredible. People severely underrate how good Klay Thompson is. Now, would he be as good away from the Warriors? Maybe not. Maybe he'd be a very similar player to someone like Devin Booker, who would just be launching up shots all the time and making a decent percentage of them. But Klay Thompson on the Warriors is a Hall of Fame level player. And Klay Thompson next to LeBron James would probably be just as good. I think it'd be awesome.
Makes sense from a financial perspective. The Warriors are eventually going to have to make a decision with Klay here and really make a decision in terms of creating salary cap flexibility and the luxury tax.
I don't believe that. Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, has made it very clear that he does not give a damn about the luxury tax. And mind you, the Warriors as a franchise are making so much money right now that the players basically pay for themselves. So, not to mention, they're also opening up a new stadium in basically
you're saying money isn't
tight.
Money
is not a problem. It's such a low issue for the Warriors that there are conversations that the Warriors might sign Paul George this offseason.
Oh, good Lord.
Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Paul George, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green. That is a lineup that has been intensely thought about in the Warriors front office. I'm not kidding you. They are seriously going to throw an offer at Paul George this summer. They might be $100 million over the luxury tax, but it doesn't matter. This team is so profitable. It literally doesn't matter who they're paying.
All right, let's summarize our list, ladies and gentlemen. The best possible LeBron James sidekicks. Thank you, Harris Rubenstein, for coming along, my friend. Appreciate it. Klay Thompson checks in at number 1. We've got Kawhi Leonard at 2. Chris Paul at number 3, guard for the Rockets there. Of course, good friends with LeBron James. Devin Booker as well, electric young player. And then Paul George, OKC, he's probably not returning. And yeah, things aren't going too hot for him within that organization right now. That's the latest around Paul George, though. So.